Am I the asshole for fake sleeping all night to see if my wife is lying? The past couple of months, my wife has been complaining about our cats. She's been claiming that the cats wake her up constantly and that she's frustrated every night that she has to get up and open the door for the cats. Or the cats keep making noises, or the cats keep jumping on her. It got me to the point where she started saying she wants me to get rid of them. I've told her I've never seen or heard any of this, but she claims I sleep through it all. She kept telling me that she was getting less and less sleep and kept acting aggressive, blaming lack of sleep from the cats and that if I didn't get rid of them, she'd leave me. I legitimately started considering giving the cats to my sister until I noticed something. One morning, she claimed she had gotten up multiple times throughout the night to help the cats. She listed a bunch of times. I thought it was weird because I had been up until 4 a.m. and she claimed that she got up at 1 a.m. to open the door for them and a few times around 3 a.m. because they were meowing and jumping on her. I was in the bedroom the entire time while she slept, and I know none of this happened. Things weren't adding up, so I decided to run a test. I waited until she said she was going to bed, then I let the cats out of our bedroom. I lowered my phone brightness and faked going to sleep. I just laid there in my bed for the entire night bored, but I definitely did not fall asleep. I made sure to make timestamps every 30 minutes on my phone through Discord just to be sure. I marked down every noise my cats made. One cat had jumped down from something and made a little noise around 3:18 a.m. and one ate food relatively quietly by the bedroom door at 4:57 a.m. Other than that, nothing happened. Sure enough, my wife slept from 11 p.m. until 9 a.m. and that morning she claimed she had woken up at least 7 times to open doors from the cat noises and cats jumping on her. At this point, I was pissed because she was clearly lying to me. I was exhausted and fed up with the lies, so I bluntly called her out on it. I told her, "That's funny. I stayed up all night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room at all last night. I have timestamps and everything, so you've been lying to me and trying to convince me to get rid of my cats? Why?" She just sat there quietly shaking and looking pissed, then got up and left without answering. She came back hours later and ignored me whenever I talked, and when I asked her how I'm the bad guy in the situation, she finally said that I was treating her like a child by lying about sleeping and staying up all night just to see if she was lying or not. And that making timestamps and everything as if I was an investigator was going too far and makes me an obsessive asshole. I did it because she was threatening to make me get rid of the cats or she'd leave me, and her claims didn't add up. So am I the obsessive asshole here? Update, my wife has been Baker acted. She did not hurt herself, just said something concerning in public. I got a call from the hospital this morning asking me to head over to some family therapy. Apparently she finally wanted to talk. I'll be honest, I'm pretty pissed at the reason why she's been so hateful towards my cats. It's absolutely insane. It's nothing that anyone has suggested. She's not cheating, she's not sick physically or mentally, she's not bored of the relationship or looking for an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story she was writing. She's hated both cats ever since. I mean, that sucks, but it's not worth trying to emotionally blackmail me into getting rid of them. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and why she'd been lying and refused to talk about it when I asked. Her answer was, because you wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise, and explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon them for her, she took offense and made it a goal to have me pick her over them. Sickening. Don't know why she actually admitted to it all. The woman with us asked me how I felt about all of it, and I just told the truth. I told her it was a nice run, but I'm probably going to want a divorce. I was asked why, and I told them. I've seen a new hateful, malicious side of her that I want nothing to do with. She was so set on getting rid of the cats over a fan fiction being ruined that she manipulated her husband. My wife started shouting at me that I betrayed her and that I'm a scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't give ultimatums like she gave. It sucks that she's been Baker acted and all, I guess, but it's for the best right now. She'll have time to process it in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. Bad husband, I know. I'm almost sure I'm going for divorce. I'm very worried about having her in the same house as my cats. I want my cats safe and I don't want to worry about them being harmed or disappearing. Screw that. I guess I'll do what almost all of you suggested. Keep the cats, rehome the wife. Not how I wanted it to end, but life isn't always nice. I grew up in a very warm and loving environment, but from what I was told, I was lucky. My sister and I had 2 drug addict parents who never took care of us. When my mom was pregnant with me, she smoked and got drunk pretty often, and when I was born, my sister was the only one who took care of me. When I was 2 months old, they left us both in a mall and left, and we never saw them again. An old couple found us and contacted the police and eventually decided to adopt us. Today I'm 19 and my sister is 34. We're really close, but I still live with my adopted family and she lives about 20 minutes away. So a couple of months ago, a friend and I took a DNA test, and that's how I found out I have an aunt in the system. I immediately reached out to her and we agreed to meet in person, all without telling my sister a thing. We tried to figure things out, so I asked her if she has a brother or sister, and she told me that when she was 13, her older sister got pregnant while being drunk with her junkie boyfriend, and a month after giving birth, she ran away with the baby after some pretty intensive fights with their parents. They never found her, but stopped looking after a year and a half. When I saw the picture, I knew it was my sister 100%. My sister is my mom. We were never abandoned. She fabricated this entire thing to my adoptive family, and after finding everything out, I told my aunt to please keep it a secret. I can't look at my sister in the eyes, let alone tell her I know the truth. After avoiding her for a week, I came to her house and I told her she needs to sit down because we need to talk. I told her about the DNA test and meeting up with my aunt, and that's when she confessed. She told me how she got very drunk at a party and slept with one of the jerks who does nothing but weed every day. She told me how her mom used to convince her father to try to talk her out of keeping the baby, and they were constantly fighting. When I was born, they told her on the spot that she brought shame upon the family and they will not help raise this baby in any way. After a couple of months of loaning from her friends and juggling between working, she decided to run away. She took us to the mall to keep us warm and we started crying. That's when the couple who adopted us now came to our aid. My sister jumped on the opportunity and came up with the story and an alias. She knew all along that her parents were looking for her. She wrote them a letter saying she's never coming back and they should stop looking. 2 years later, her father went on a quest to find her secretly. He met me a few times and I knew him as one of my sister's old friends from the park. He helped us a few times and apparently they would meet up once every 2 months secretly. I'm glad I got to know him at least before he passed away.
Storytime, my best friend cheated on his girlfriend with me. So a little background information. So Gavin and I had been best friends ever since we were little. We lived in the same neighborhood, and my parents and his grandparents were pretty close, I guess. But everybody in our neighborhood was close with each other. And I always had a huge crush on him. And I would try to subtly tell him that I liked him. But he would always be like, "Ew, don't joke with me like that. That's not true." And eventually, I just kind of got the hint that that was his way of telling me, "I don't like you. Stop before I tell you," in a mean way. So when we were in middle school, he was always having these 2-day relationships with all these girls and everything. And me, not so much, because sis didn't have a glow up until she reached her sophomore year in high school. And the thing was, I wasn't that best friend who would be like, "Ew, don't date her, she's ugly," or anything like that. I would totally respect all of his relationships, even if they were 2 days long, but he would literally still block me. So like I said, the one night I was at his house and he was on my phone and he was asking me who all these guys were on my Snapchat. And I told him that I had been talking to them and he was just being super toxic. He was talking shit on every single one of them. So eventually I started dating this guy, Trey, and after that he texted me saying that I was gross and everything else, when the next day he literally got a girlfriend. But weirdly enough, he didn't block me that time. He actually started texting me more, saying how him and his girlfriend were so happy together, da-da-da-da-da. And unlike him, I would be supportive. Well, the one night at 2 a.m., he came over my house and he was like, "I don't have feelings for my girlfriend." And I'm like, "Okay, then why are you with her?" And then he has the nerve to say, "Don't you get that I like you?" Really? Well, eventually we cut off all communication and he was still with this girl. Well, the one night he asked me to come over and talk, and we ended up doing the nasty. And then he blocked me on everything, after he said we should both leave our girlfriends and boyfriends. Well, I ended up telling his girlfriend what we did, and they also come to my family cookouts.
Story time about how my neighbor killed my dog. So a little background information. When I was about 3 years old, my parents got me a German Shepherd. And my neighbors who lived next to us absolutely loved our dog. And so did their kids. Their dad literally put a doggy door in the fence, so that way our dog could go back and forth from our house to his house. Well, when I was about 8 years old, my neighbors decided to sell their house. So he told us that he had to take out the doggy door because the people that were buying his house hated animals. Well, the people who had just bought his house, they ended up moving in before he could take out the doggy door. So our new neighbors asked us if we could put a piece of plywood in front of the door so that way our dog couldn't get through. And they said that they would do the same to their side of the fence. So my dad said, yeah, he put a piece of plywood in front of there. Well, my dog, Gabe, the one night that my brother let him out, he ended up getting the plywood off of the doggy door. Well, my brother literally had to crawl through the doggy door to get the dog before one of them saw him in the yard. So like I said, my brother let the dog out, and my dog got the piece of plywood off of the door. And my brother had to crawl through the doggy door to get my dog out of our neighbor's yard, so that way our neighbors wouldn't wake up and know that he got through. But whenever my brother went to go get Gabe, he realized that my neighbors didn't even have a piece of plywood on their side of the fence or anything. So my brother told my dad, and my dad went over there the next day to talk to them. And he pretty much said, "I'm not going to have a piece of fucking plywood on my side of the fence if you're not going to be doing anything on yours to prevent my dog from going into your yard." And they were like, "Oh, well, your old neighbors never took out the doggy door." And my dad was like, "That's not our fucking fault." Well, then our new neighbors said, "If your dog all of a sudden becomes sick or just does not come back, don't be surprised." My dad decided to replace the door himself. Well, once Gabe realized that the doggy door was gone, when we would let him outside, he would literally just sit there and bark at the fence. Well, 2 weeks later, Gabe ended up passing away, and we found out it's because our neighbors were giving him rat poison.
Story time on how I found out my sister was actually my mom. My parents were much more older than me, and I always felt more distant from them than any of my siblings. I'm 17 years old. I grew with a big family. I have 5 siblings. My sister is 30, brother 29, another brother that's 29, and both of my sisters are 24 and 22. I always realized there was a big gap between me and the rest of them. I always figured that maybe I was an accident or unplanned. Being the youngest, I was spoiled all of the time. The way they treated me is how you would expect them to treat the youngest. My older sister Hannah always took care of me the best. I always saw her as a mother figure, never knowing that she was actually my real mom. She spent most of her time with me more than my other brothers and sisters. And she often took care of me when my mom wasn't there. And my parents were much more older than me, so I always felt like there was a distance between us. I ended up finding out Hannah was my mom after both of my parents passed away. When my father passed away, it was probably the worst part of my life. I was 8 years old. I did not take it well at all. I cried for weeks and I went crazy. I threw fits at people. I know my siblings were all going through this just as bad as I was, but I made it all about me. I didn't even consider them or what they had been going through the whole time. And recently, the same thing happened to my mom. It hit me just as hard, if not harder. She'd been sick for a long time and slowly getting worse. I wasn't ready for it at all. It was after this Hannah told me the truth. She sat me down, embraced me that what she was about to tell me, I would be shocked. She knew that we all were still recovering from my mother's passing, but a few weeks had passed and she felt like it was enough time to wait before actually coming out with the truth. Sorry, I can't do 3-minute long videos, but come back for part 3 if you want to know exactly how she explained that she was my mom. She said she always wanted to tell me, and only now she could finally. When she was 13, as many stupid kids do, she had unprotected ex with a boy. And she had got pregnant, and that child was me. At the time, her parents wanted to give her baby up for adoption, but she was unshakable and wanted to keep her child. She completely refused to give me away. They eventually agreed to keep me and would raise me in their household, but with their parents as the guardians, and I would grow up thinking that they were my real parents. Apparently, some of my older siblings also knew, but they never mentioned it. In fact, they're actually my aunts and uncles. My mother made Hannah swear that she would never tell me, and that she could only tell me only after some time after her death. She said she wanted to die as a mother, not a grandmother. Hannah said all my life she wanted to tell me, but swore not to. And she was glad that she was able to tell me the truth. But if you want to know how I reacted to the whole situation,